Okay, Mitch Miller, www.plotm.com, anarchist atheist. I'm here speaking. I just wanted to speak a little bit on the United States election. Trump won, and I have minimal info. I just see little blurbs, and I try to just ignore most U.S. media over here in Europe, in Aalborg, Denmark, where I am. But from what I gathered just from seeing a couple things around election night, we have our classic politic speak coming out of the United States. One of the things I heard from the working class type people or whatever is left of that in the United States, I heard just a quick blurb interview. One of the ideas and the concepts, and it's very common in the United States political system, is that Trump is this outsider businessman, and he's going to go into Washington and break apart all the old Washington networks. So to that regard, what I would say is that it's well documented that Trumpsy, as I'll refer to him, has went bankrupt 9 times in his career as a business person. So as far as a viable outside business person to go break up Washington, this candidate has been bankrupt 9 times, which means he has liquidated he basically used taxpayer money to run capitalist enterprises into the ground and then restart them, by completely having his tax burden absolved through bankruptcies. So as far as that's concerned, I don't see why he's the right fit for that, but we'll give him a chance, right? So, what does that say? If he's willing to take that, I mean, it's almost a form of corporate welfare, but he doesn't seem to be concerned with that in the United States. It's breaking up some not well-paid politicians or whatever. So the question I would have also is, when you go bankrupt, you totally liquidate your assets. So does he even own a house in the United States? Does he have actual ownership of a property in the United States solely to him and to his name? Is he even a private property owner in the United States? The second, so, he's going to break up Washington. So here's my suggestion on how to do it, because I've been talking about satellite systems that got deregulated in 2001, and I'm talking about things to that nature, satellite systems that were owned by government groups, and seemed to me they were highly regulated. So, to the people that think that he's going to break up Washington, I would say, are you going to hold him accountable? So here's my suggestion. If you can go, I want to do investigations on private corporations, but I'll tell you what, I'm sure the government is always willing to go first, just as usual. So let's investigate the government, because they're very much easier to investigate than the private corporations. So how about we start by going back and finding out how that legislation came about and who deregulated it and no longer made these satellites, these Intelsat satellites, accountable to a government group and allowed it to be privatized. So what legislation took place, what agencies approved that? Secondly, I speak out against the 401k program, because it essentially took every private corporation that had to be responsible for a pension benefit to their people, which was more of a, in my opinion, conservative and more of a responsible business that and believed in its people and believed that it could push itself into the future and invest in its own account into the stock market to pay for its retirees. We took away those pensions, and now every corporation pretty much, and a lot of other entities rely on the United States stock market for their retirement through the 401k program. So I would also try to find out what legislators and what senators were responsible for the privatization of those satellites, and the 401k enactment of that program, and to allow that to be a government program, because it essentially makes a huge portion of the population rely on United States stock market. And as I explained in my American Dream, if somebody comes out and starts calling out the credibility of that market, what's going to happen to them? And I think you're seeing it. So to that note, as far as these satellites and things like that, and things I said about these cable companies and putting equipment in your house, just recently, just within the past 10 years, the three national broadcast stations switched from analog to digital. They did this, and a lot of people don't realize they did this because they owned the rights to those analog waves that they were broadcasting, wireless broadcasts, and when they went to digital, it allowed them to be more concise waves instead of owning all the waves across the country. And so when they went to digital, this freed up a huge amount of waves for private mobile phone companies and other companies to buy those waves, as we're talking about these invisible waves. So to the people of the United States and the people that are there, I say to you, these are our airwaves. Were we asked permission, and were we adequately educated as to how these waves were going to be sold privately, and that was a government involvement situation as well. So, that's what I would say. If you want to break up Washington, let's find the politicians and the senators that were involved in the satellite issue, and you might have to go back 30 years. It could have been a slow process, but to Trump and Cuban, I say, you have this private money. You have a month and a half or 2 months before Trump goes into office, so why not use some of that private money to do this investigation? And then my question is, are you going to allow me to investigate some of these private companies? Because you have the capital to do it right now. I'm isolated and have no capital. So, and to that note, you probably have millions and millions of people that just voted for Trump, Trumpsy, that are willing to spend an hour or two a day looking into old whatever to find out who these senators and politicians are. So are you going to promote that? Because you still have a big following. You just had a huge rallying of voters. So on that note, I've talked about proposing a peace treaty as somewhat, possibly a United States citizen or a former United States citizen and a tribal leader. So in that peace treaty, I want to make the statement that any technology company, because we have huge databases and we have very easy digital camera situations, any new technology company should have to be able to show every part within their technology and make that available on the internet so that anybody can see every single component, chip, part, and everything in that technology. And I'd like to put that in a peace treaty. I'd like to propose that to the UN as well. But again, I'm a lunatic that thinks that we should be as transparent with our electronics as you want the government to be transparent in democratic nations. My question is to this: Trump, please, I'm saying please to Trumpsy. You've somehow figured out how to recapitalize 9 times and become a businessman 9 different times. So can you tell me your secret? Because how do I capitalize? That's my plea to Trumpsy. I did come to a different part of the library, and I just want to show you because, as this video gets out, I'm sure that the magical news articles and everything that tells us who these senators and politicians and political leaders were will magically disappear off the internet. So I want to show you. So I just wanted to show you this. I know some people at the Huffington Post probably still know how to use these, but I don't know what the status of the rest of the United States is. But I found the microfilm projector thing. So we may have to get into the old libraries and look into old headlines and voting counts and old political magazines, maybe in D.C. or whatever. So just wanted to show you that I found that, and hopefully you'll do some research, America. Mitch Miller signing out.